Every day, millions of people misunderstand one of the most powerful chemicals in the human body, testosterone. They hear the word and immediately think of violence, rage, or dominance. But what if everything you have been told about testosterone and aggression is not only misleading but completely wrong? What if this vital hormone has been unfairly judged for decades, hiding its true potential to shape resilience, confidence, and mental clarity? Imagine unlocking a science-backed perspective on masculinity and emotional control, one that empowers you to channel energy, focus, and strength without fear of losing control. Think about the young athlete who is told to calm down, the stressed executive blamed for being too intense, or the student convinced that ambition is dangerous. All of them are trapped by myths. What if the truth about testosterone could be the key to a more composed, focused, and empowered you? Would you want to understand how the brain actually processes aggression? Would you want to harness your internal chemistry to serve your goals rather than suppress your drive? This video is not about hyping hormones or promoting outdated stereotypes. It is about peeling back the layers of misunderstanding and stepping into a world where science meets purpose. We are going to break down what testosterone does, what it does not do, and how your brain interprets power, control, and aggression. If you have ever been misunderstood, if you have ever questioned your own intensity, or if you simply want to gain mastery over your emotional and mental energy, then stay with me. This journey through the neuroscience of testosterone aggression might just rewire your mindset forever. Testosterone has long been associated with aggression. From news headlines to movie portrayals, it is often cast as the villain in emotional outbursts and violent behavior. However, modern neuroscience tells a more complex story. Testosterone is not a mindless force of destruction, it is a nuanced biological tool that, when understood, can be mastered for positive growth and emotional stability. We must recognize that aggression is not inherently negative. In fact, controlled aggression is essential for self-defense, asserting boundaries, and achieving high performance under pressure. The brain, especially regions like the amygdala and prefrontal cortex, work together to regulate this response. Testosterone influences these areas, but it does not control them outright. The difference between reaction and regulation lies in awareness and training, not hormones alone. One of the greatest myths is that testosterone causes violence. Science shows that it does not create aggression, it amplifies existing tendencies based on context. In nurturing environments, higher testosterone can lead to increased generosity, confidence, and fairness. In hostile or competitive environments, it can enhance territorial or protective responses. The key factor is the brain's interpretation of social cues. Understanding this means you can stop fearing your own power. You can begin to develop a relationship with your drive that is rooted in knowledge rather than shame. You are not broken, dangerous, or unstable just because you feel intense energy. That energy can be directed. That power can be refined. This video is for the thinkers, the doers, the fighters of internal battles. It is time to learn how testosterone interacts with your brain. It is time to destroy myths and embrace science not as a cold set of facts, but as a warm invitation to self-mastery. Testosterone is a steroid hormone produced mainly in the testes in men and in smaller amounts in the ovaries and adrenal glands in women. It influences everything from muscle growth to mood regulation. Its impact on the brain is significant, yet not simplistic. Testosterone affects circuits involved in motivation, attention, and reward, not just aggression. The prefrontal cortex, which governs decision-making and emotional regulation, works with testosterone to assess risk, reward, and strategy. When levels are balanced, testosterone can enhance focus and determination. This hormone often helps people take initiative and push through fatigue, rather than simply promoting impulsive or violent actions. Testosterone also interacts with the dopamine system, which is tied to pleasure and motivation. Elevated testosterone levels can increase drive and ambition, traits that are vital for leadership and personal development. However, without the grounding influence of awareness and self-regulation, this drive can turn into recklessness. Rather than seeing testosterone as an aggressive agent, think of it as an amplifier. It heightens what is already present in the environment and the mindset. In a stable, purpose-driven brain, it increases courage and clarity. In a chaotic, reactive brain, it can escalate conflict. The hormone is not the villain, it is the volume knob. By understanding this, you can begin to shape your environment and your thoughts in ways that allow testosterone to become a tool, not a trigger. Use it to lean into challenges, take constructive risks, and become a more intentional version of yourself. Aggression is often confused with violence, but they are not the same. Aggression is a biological response designed to help organisms survive, defend, and assert. Violence, on the other hand, is the uncontrolled or deliberate act of causing harm. The distinction is crucial if we want to harness our natural instincts without harming others or ourselves. Your brain uses aggression as a motivational system. When you set boundaries, compete in sports, or stand up for a cause, you are using healthy aggression. Testosterone plays a role in activating this drive, but your frontal cortex decides how and when it is expressed. This is where emotional intelligence and neuroscience meet. One of the most empowering truths is that you can train your aggression to work for you. Through mindfulness, breathing techniques, and deliberate reflection, you can build a buffer between impulse and action. This does not mean suppressing emotion. It means channeling it into strength and resilience. When testosterone rises, it does not scream for chaos. It prepares your body for focus, energy, and confrontation. But the confrontation does not have to be physical. It can be a mental confrontation with self-doubt, a strategic confrontation with a difficult decision, or a courageous confrontation with fear. Rewriting your relationship with aggression starts with redefining it. See it not as a curse, but as a compass. Let it point you toward courage, not destruction. Let it drive your purpose, not derail your peace. One of the most overlooked truths in neuroscience is the role of context. The same chemical in different environments can produce entirely different behaviors. Testosterone in a competitive sports arena might fuel dominance, while in a mentoring situation it can fuel protection and support. The brain is constantly decoding the social setting to decide how to use its chemistry. Studies have shown that men with higher testosterone levels often behave more generously in fair game scenarios. Their behavior is not dictated by hormones alone, but by how their brain perceives the situation. Aggression is not always the result of biology. It is often the result of social interpretation and mental framing. You have more control over your hormonal expression than you realize. By choosing who you surround yourself with, what you expose your mind to, and how you frame your challenges, you can influence how testosterone is used in your body. It is not about manipulating biology, but guiding it with purpose. When you place yourself in an environment of growth, support, and ambition, testosterone becomes a partner in resilience. It sharpens your clarity, enhances your willpower, and deepens your focus. In toxic or chaotic settings, however, it may respond to stress and competition with increased tension and impulsivity. The takeaway is this: context is power. Shape your context and you shape your chemistry. Choose your mindset and you choose your momentum. Your environment does not only reflect who you are, it shapes what your brain becomes. Aggression, like any neural pathway, can be rewired. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change its wiring based on experience, means that repeated behavior and intentional thought can reshape how you react. This gives you the power to transform aggression into assertiveness, confidence, and calm. Every time you pause before reacting, you strengthen the brain's regulation systems. The anterior cingulate cortex and the orbitofrontal cortex work together to mediate emotional reactions. Testosterone may heighten the intensity of a situation, but your consistent habits determine the outcome. Meditation, breathwork, and cold exposure have all been shown to improve emotional regulation and stress response. These practices teach the brain that it does not need to default to fight or flight reactions. Over time, you can train your nervous system to embrace tension without being consumed by it. Imagine a world where your energy surges but your heart remains steady. Picture yourself facing a challenge with fire in your chest but clarity in your mind. This is not science fiction. It is neuroscience in action, and it begins with discipline and intentional practice. You are not a prisoner of your chemistry. You are the architect of your behavior. And every time you choose purpose over impulse, you reshape your brain to serve the life you are building. Much of the fear around testosterone and aggression stems from outdated ideas about masculinity. For years, being strong meant being silent. Being emotional meant being weak. These ideas are not only wrong, they are dangerous. True strength comes from emotional depth, self-awareness, and inner peace. Science now tells us that testosterone does not shut down empathy. In fact, when balanced and properly understood, it can enhance social motivation, loyalty, and leadership. The key lies in how it is used. Are you using your strength to lift others or to suppress them? Are you using your energy to connect or to dominate? Redefining masculinity means embracing both power and compassion. It means learning how to hold space for emotion while also standing tall in adversity. It means rejecting the myth that aggression is always destructive and embracing the truth that, when guided, it can fuel courage and purpose. You are not less of a man or less of a human for feeling deeply. Testosterone is not a curse. It is a call to channel your gifts into something bigger than yourself. That might be a mission, a cause, a family, or a vision that lights you up inside. Let go of the fear that your intensity makes you dangerous. Instead, rise with the knowledge that your brain is wired for greatness. And that greatness begins when you stop fighting your nature and start mastering it. You were never meant to be small. You were never designed to live in the shadows of myths and fears. Inside you is a fire that the world often tries to tame, but that fire, when guided, is not a threat. It is a gift. Testosterone is not a sign of weakness or violence. It is your body's way of telling you that you are ready to rise. Every time you feel that energy surge, when your heart pounds, when your breath quickens, it is not rage, it is readiness. It is the warrior within waking up, calling you to step forward, not with fists, but with focus, not with chaos, but with calm certainty. That is what science reveals. That is what your brain is capable of. Think of all the moments when you doubted yourself because of how others misunderstood you. Think of the times when your strength was misjudged, your assertiveness mislabeled. Those were not flaws, they were signals. Signals that you are built for more. Signals that your biology is calling you to purpose. Let those signals guide you. Let the myths fall away. Let the science lift you up. You are not a product of rage. You are a force of reason and resilience. You are not fighting your nature. You are mastering it. And through that mastery, you will rise, not just for yourself, but for every person who needs to see what strength looks like when it is rooted in wisdom. So stand tall, own your drive, honor your intensity. The brain you carry, the body you inhabit, and the hormone you produce, these are not problems. They are potential, and they are waiting for you to step into your power. If this message moved you, then it is time to act. Do not let these truths fade into another forgotten video. Integrate them. Reflect on what you have learned about testosterone, aggression, and the brain. Let this be the start of your transformation, not just in knowledge, but in action. Begin by shaping your environment. Choose people, habits, and spaces that support your inner balance. Learn to recognize your surges of energy not as signs of instability, but as invitations to focus and rise. Practice intentional responses. Meditate, move your body, rewire your mind. Share this message with someone who has been misunderstood, someone who has been told they are too much or too aggressive. Let them know that there is nothing wrong with their strength, only myths that need to be broken. Let us build a new culture around masculine energy and emotional clarity. Most importantly, stay curious. Keep learning. Dive deeper into the neuroscience of behavior and hormones. Empower yourself with truth. Because once you understand how your brain works, nothing can stop you from becoming who you were meant to be. This is your call, not to fight against yourself, but to rise with yourself. Testosterone, aggression, the brain, not myths, not monsters, but tools. Tools that, with knowledge and purpose, can build a powerful, peaceful, and extraordinary life.